Welcome to another presentation of the Cognitive Security Institute. The views expressed by presenters are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of, or endorsement by, the Cognitive Security Institute or any affiliated organizations. Humanity stands at the threshold of an unprecedented technological revolution. Advances in AI-powered autonomous systems, direct neural interfaces, and immersive digital connectivity promise to redefine human capabilities. However, this transformation also presents profound ethical, security, and existential challenges that demand proactive and thoughtful action. The decisions we make now will shape the trajectory of our species and determine whether we thrive in this new era or falter under its weight. You may learn more about cognitive security and how to become involved in this rapidly growing community by visiting our website at cognitivesecurity.institute. If you find these talks interesting, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. We hope that you enjoy this presentation. Jean Camp is a professor at the School of Informatics and Computing at Indiana University. She is a fellow of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. She is a fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. She joined Indiana after 8 years at Harvard's Kennedy School, where her courses were also listed in Harvard Law, Harvard Business, and the Engineering Systems Division of MIT. She spent the year after earning her doctorate from Carnegie Mellon as a senior member of the technical staff at Sandia National Laboratories. She began her career as an engineer at Catawba Nuclear Station with a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering at University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Her research focuses on the intersection of human and technical trust, leveraging economic models and human-centered design to create safe, secure systems. Her early contributions in the interdisciplines of economics of security, user-centered security, risk communication, and online trust underlie her applied research in the domains of IoT, authentication, secure networking, ecrime, public policy, ethics in computer science, and a few works on applied cryptography. Full text and details on her publications can be found at their disciplinary homes, meaning that there is no complete overlap between ResearchGate, DBLP, SSRN, and Google Scholar. Works sorted by domain and discipline are also available at http://www.lgene.com/publications.php.
Hello, this is Dr. Matthew Canham, the Executive Director of the Cognitive Security Institute. Cyber trust marks represent an attempt to create software transparency and are intended to empower consumers. But this begs the question, do trust marks even make a difference to consumers? That is the topic of today's presentation to the Cognitive Security Institute. We hope that you enjoy it.
Thank you. As you noted earlier, I'm just going to share my PowerPoint presentation so that I can see if anyone responds or flags me down. And thank you for joining me. So, do trust marks make a difference? One of the three basic reasons we have for lack of security and privacy are rational choice. The economic models that show that the benefit ratio is small, benefits are accrue to others, like in BGPSec. You can spend a lot of effort adopting BGPSec and maybe other people will get some value. Network effects, it's just rational not to be secure. Usability, security technologies are completely unusable. We did quite a number of YubiKey experiments and found stop points where people literally could not enroll. And the other explanation is there's a lack of information, chronic information asymmetry, which is often called a lemons market because it was first identified in the used car market. So there are three corresponding assumptions that we have to deal with. That is, how do we deal with rational choice models? How do we deal with usability? And how do we address market failure? So I'm going to spend a few minutes on three different experiments, each of which addresses these. The first is, what content do people want in a label? What do they want labels to mean? Which labels are usable, efficient, and easiest to comprehend? And if the label has content people want and it's usable, would people pay for security? So those are my 3 questions. And the first one is, what content do people want? And this is where the software bill of materials and the labels come together. So what security criteria do people want? We took a list of best practices, and many things were common in all these best practice documents. And then we asked people. We gave them a little card sorting exercise and said, hey, local storage versus cloud storage. Is that important to you? Is that most important? Or is that not important at all? Because a fundamental theory I have in my research is that if you want to know what people want, you start by asking. And we found that we put, because when we did this, SBOM was part, the Software Bill of Materials was part of the National Defense Authorization Act. We focused on disproportionately recruiting from people in the DoD, so you would not believe how difficult that is. And we identified the top 10 factors of what people want in security. And all of these are things that, if you look here, this is the crypto SBOM. Standards compliance is in SPDX. Vulnerability processes is the core of SBOM. And so I would say it inherently addresses about 5 of those. The factors of interest were not incredibly different between the general public and the DoD, except for authentication and policies and procedures. And one of the big differences was secure onboarding. So the general public participants disagreed with version, fog computing, and consent information. I'm sure none of us are shocked to find that the DoD found privacy less important. As education levels increase, secure onboarding decreases. So if you are very educated, you're not concerned about secure onboarding because you can fix it. If you have less technical expertise or lower education, you really want it to work. So if we go back to risk communication, what's important is that we communicate to everyone. So we found no difference in gender or work experience. And when we went back and compared our top 10 to the NIST IoT factors for secure IoT, we found that all of them had been included in secure IoT. And if you look at information dissemination, information and query reception, those are core to the FDA requirements and the kind of overarching goal of the software bill of materials. And then if you compare it to NIST software factors, again, you can see that there's a high level of correspondence. So we asked people what matters most to the computers. We got a top 10 most security factors. We found that these factors were indeed included in the SPDX proposal for SBOM. So we're talking about the things that people care about, not just developers and producers, but the general public. So we're going to have in addition to the software bill of materials, we're going to have a label, and I have done this work presuming that the information in the SBOM would have some factual correspondence to the label, which I think is reasonable. So we compared based on efficacy. Do they communicate security to, do they communicate security to participants? Do they like QR codes? Should we include QR codes? Do they like the labels, which is what acceptability means? Do participants understand what the labels mean? And will it change their selection? So in the first experiment, which is most secure? Because if the labels don't communicate security, we cannot pretend later that they are paying for a more secure product. because they have no idea. So this is the first experiment in the usability. Does it have these features? How easy was it to use? So we went to Prolific and we said, we'd like a representative population. And that does not include income, which we know is important, that the top and bottom of the income distribution are cut off in Prolific because you have to have a credit card and a certain level of education. And if you're have huge amounts of money, you're probably not working for extra money on Prolific. So what we did was we asked people, select the image of the IoT product that provides the greatest cybersecurity. Why did you select the camera? And does this camera include these security features? Using the label, does this camera ensure, for example, user privacy, product confidentiality? So we ask about the factors, the top 10 factors that we developed in the previous card sorting. So we had people consent. Oh, this is so nice, my pointer work. Ask them which label they liked. Then we dumped them in a group, one of 4 labels, and they had to pick a camera, a light bulb, or a thermostat. And they were in one of these groups. And then we asked them, how much do you know about computer security? How hard was that label to use? Hey, having used a label, have you changed your preference? And we asked them about their purchasing and demographics. We used 4 labels: the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark, which was announced in 2023, the Underwriters Laboratory IoT security rating, which they started before the Cyber Trust Mark. So I don't know about you, but I think somebody at Underwriters Laboratory is on United Airlines. And the CMU IoT security and privacy label, which was done in a deeply qualitative manner. It's based on a series of interviews, and it has multiple levels where you hit a QR code and then you go down and then you get URLs, so you can delve down as deeply as you like. And then an internally graded multi-layer level with a QR code. And then the second level of this used, again, our top 10 factors: authentication, policy and procedures, transparency, secure onboarding. Now, I want to take 1 second and say the reason we included secure onboarding here is because people were interested in it inversely according to their level of expertise. And if you design a label for your average person, that means that you can miss the lowest and most vulnerable 50% by design. So we went with the top factors for the lower expert users. So can people use them? That was our big question. Yes, they can use them. They can pick the most secure product. Look at that accuracy. In the binary label, it was still better than random chance. In the nutrition style label, they were not as accurate as the graded label, but they had more confidence about their selection. And the 5 lock label, look, and it has 5 stars. You know which one is the best one, as we all know from going out to dinner and looking at restaurant ratings. So is it easy to use the standard NASA task load index? Is it mentally demanding? Did it take a lot of time? Was it hard to use? Were you frustrated? How do you feel about your performance? Do you think you did a good job? So we inverted performance. Normally higher is better on performance, but I find that a confusing way to present. So we took the 20 minus And people like the 5-lock label, which made us very happy. They found the binary label surprisingly mentally difficult. The graded shield label didn't have a lot of major detractors, and the problem was people thought gold was best. Whatever they saw, they thought was best. Like, is platinum better than gold? Is silver better than gold? No, not really. They didn't read the platinum thing. People loved the binary label for its aesthetics, though, although it was difficult to use. The nutrition style label had the highest mental demands, took the longest time to use, but they believed they were most accurate. They were not the most accurate, but they believed they were, so there's a risk there. People like graded labels. So the QR code literalization was very funny because they said they used it more than they used it. So we were able to link. Each participant was exposed to 24 QR codes if they were in one of those groups. We captured 42 page views, and some of those were repeat views, but 45 participants said they used them during the study. So I take that to mean people aspire to use more QR codes, right? So if I ask you, do you go to the gym? You might say you go to the gym a little bit more than you do because it's a positive. 90, almost 100%, but not exactly 100%, did not use the QR code. But 10% said they did. So people see the QR codes as a positive thing that they want to use. And then we asked them, which label do you like? Now that you've had to compare the 4 labels, at the beginning, they liked the Underwriter's Laboratory and the detailed nutrition label. At the end, they liked it because, oh, the shield means secure. Gold is great. Turns out gold means medium. Nutrition, they liked the specificity. And 5-lock, they liked the security rating before they used them. And then a final comparison, they focused on ease of use. So the CyberTrust mark was not the most popular, but all of them were usable. They all enabled identification of a secure product better than random chance. Most participants openly say we don't do prior research. We go to the store and we purchase the thing that we want to purchase. Privacy was consistently ranked higher and more important as a factor for purchasing decisions. And label preferences are going to evolve with use. So by asking before and after, we saw that even using a label only 3 times is going to change your perception of that label. So the last question we had to ask was, do people change their selection of products in the presence of these labels? Are people willing to pay money for security? Because this is what we really want to know. When the rubber hits the road and the label hits the market, should we expect the market to change? And can we quantify this? So again, we went back to Prolific. We had about 620 participants. We threw all but 599 out. So they were provided with a $15 Amazon gift card to purchase a light bulb. And at the end, they expected to receive the light bulb and keep the amount left on the card. So this is their money that they are spending. Your payment for participating in this experiment is $15, but you have to spend some of that on a light bulb. Our filtering for the experiment was, I expect to buy a smart light bulb in the next 2 months. So people who wanted to buy a light bulb, a smart light bulb, were our participants, and they were spending their own money on the light bulb, which makes this a different than other studies about. To my knowledge, this is the only study where people actually had to spend their own money. So Security is part of a multidimensional purchase decision. We didn't do any prior training or nudging because we expect that your average human being is not reading the FCC announcements about the cyber trust label. They're just going to show up at Lowe's and be like, hey, look, here's a label. So this is what they look like. Here's the control. You know, it's the Amazon store. You can, when they hit add to cart, they would expect it to hit add to cart. Here it is with the US Cyber Trust label. Here is the black and white Cyber Trust label. Here is the Cyber Trust label with a QR code, which looks like what is going to hit the market. And this is the graded Cyber Trust label. It's not associated with Energy Star, it's just where it fits. And here is the graded Cyber Trust label with a QR code. So we asked them to sort these products. They had to make 4 product choices. They had to choose a camera. They had to choose a watch. They had to choose a dishwasher. And then they had to choose and commit to purchase a light bulb. So they saw 4 options, and the 4 options were expensive and moderately priced with a label, cheap and moderately priced without a label. So when we say without a label, this is what they had. They either had 1 star or 5 stars in the 5-star graded label. So we asked people, 50% of the participants said they would use a label after they made this decision. 37% said inclusion of a label would influence their decision. 50% were like, I would look at a label. A third of the participants were like, it would definitely influence my decision. And then later, when we asked them, what if there were not a security label? So it should be the case that the same number of people say not having a security label would change their decision, as should say having a security label. Like if there was an absence of a label, would that change your mind? These should be the same number. 1 in 3 basically said inclusion of a security label would influence their decision. Only 1 in 5 said if there were labeled and unlabeled products, that would influence our decision. And then we asked them, what decide, what did you decide? This is after they made their products. Very few identified, 18 participants identified it as a driver. So, but the distribution was different once, was it significantly different? Spoiler, it depends. A classic answer. Did you see a label? This is afterwards. Did you notice the label? Yes. And then we asked, did you notice the cyber trust mark? They were like, no, we noticed the Energy Star label. The Energy Star label, we know what that means. We like the Energy Star label. And part of that is recognizing the importance of familiarity, because the Energy Star label took 10 years and a redesign to work. So for the people who saw the label, did you use it? No. So we're down from 1 out of 3 participants to 51 out of 500. So price is most important. Brand was second most important. Privacy was third, and security was least important. Others depended on the product. Energy consumption for the dishwasher, aesthetics for the watch, consistently aesthetics for the watch. But cybersecurity was picked as a top 2 option by 18% of the people, and privacy by about 22%. So let's look at what label they liked. people like the cyber trust mark, but if you look at the rank, oh, this table is not as clear as you want it to be. When you look at the rank, people like the label they used. So everyone was put in one of those 5 groups. They used one of those 5 labels. Whatever label was used, that label was more preferred by that group, and with the some of the graded QR code liking just the graded better. So whatever they like, so label preference is malleable. That's an important thing. So here we have it. They liked, people with the QR code were like, oh, the grading and the QR code, that is too much. But in general, people liked what they saw, whatever they saw. Now, here is the sad news. Here's the first. I'll give you the bad news first. There's no statistical significance in purchasing between groups and the control groups. None of those is statistically significant. Just look at 0.5, 0.5, 0.7. It's like, nope, they're the same. We can't reject that. Unless we actually look at the people who care about security. They spent more time with the QR label. They had a higher preference for the QR label. And when they were more likely to use the label, that not only hypothetically, but actually selecting label products, and they were willing to pay 17% more for the light bulb that is actual money, that is their money. They were more likely to choose not only the higher priced product, but the median product. When we did a Bayesian analysis of this, it's not only that the mean is different, but the distribution of choice of products is different. So people who say they value security actually will pay more. Now, I know I've kind of downloaded on you because I've got a lot of slides, and I didn't include the people who rated privacy higher were not willing to pay more. They had the same distribution. So we're not sure why that is, and I will talk about that in the next little bit. Consumers who value security had a significant increase in willing to pay. For those of you who care, the region of practical equivalence, there was less than 10% distribution. Even the most minor exposure created a bias towards the label. So whatever label you present people with, they're more likely, they didn't have expectations. The participants rejected QR codes as being untrustworthy or burdensome, but security-aware participants valued QR codes as a source of more information. So those who identified as not caring about security said, well, I'm not going to use this QR code because I'm worried about my security. Yes, that is a difficult finding to parse. And everybody loved the Energy Star label, and they used the Energy Star label. And so we think these are lessons learned from our work that can inform the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark Initiative, the importance of simplicity, the need to communicate economic value to the consumer. This will save this much money, make you 10% less likely to have identity theft. Let's be honest. The amount of money saved on Energy Star labels is almost certainly wrong. It depends on your patterns of use. It depends on when you use it. It depends on what region of the country you live in. What are the sources of fuel? Do you have solar? Do you have solar, but you plug in your electric car, so you pay for electricity? But they are internally consistent. And that is the value of the Energy Star. So if we could come up with an internally consistent number from basically, 1 to n, 20% savings by not getting identity theft. Because we found some of the results of our quantitative work a little bit confusing, we decided to do a little bit of inclusive qualitative work, and we also included blind and visually impaired community members. So how do you test? We took one physical light bulb and reprinted the labels and put them on the product boxes, and we asked rural community, blind and visually impaired, computer security experts, public policy experts, and young professionals, who's our control group. All of our findings were consistent with the willingness to pay, quality and price dominate. A subset were concerned about security. Labels should differentiate. So one of the questions we had was, why don't people who care about privacy pay more when confronted with this cyber trust label? Is because our focus group participants thought what the label meant was you won't get hacked. It's very much seen as a security label. We also did find that accessibility of the labels was inadequate. So there is an alt text that is part of the image in the online stores. And here's an example of how alt text works. And this is like, actually, I think it's the Wikipedia example that was contributed by one of our lab members. And here's the image: moonlight reflecting off a pond at night, revealing a rainbow refraction off the water towards the shoreline. Across the pond, the dark tree line contrasts against the sky above. Here is the description of the cybersecurity labels. Teal, U.S. Cyber Trust Mark. Black and white, U.S. Cyber Trust Mark. They're not very descriptive. They focus on the color. They're incredibly terse. And so one of our works in progress is coming up with an accessible description for blind consumers. So that's our goal there. So in closing, labels can communicate security, and in fact, the cyber trust mark, with its simple design, communicates security. But the benefit is clear only to we value consumers. Well, at least you know I made the slides just for you. The benefit is clear only to consumers who already value security, and it's clearly not a privacy label, to those consumers. And if you look at SBOM, it's really, and the FDA requirements, this is about security. Simple labels are easiest to use. QR codes are hotly contested. The people who don't want to use them don't like them, and the people that want to use them like them. This is not a breakthrough finding. Participants increase their ability to identify secure products in the presence of labels, and the consumers who value security will pay for them. Label design, different targets and purposes. They did not capture attention at the level we thought they would. They changed behavior significantly for a significant part of the population. People who see them do feel more informed and confident. The ability to direct to additional information was valued both by our focus groups and security-aware consumers. One label is not going to serve every need in all situations, but it's clearly progress. And then for your interest, I included some research that we're doing here, both in my group and other groups from Indiana University. So thank you so much for your time and attention. That was a lot.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation to the Cognitive Security Institute. If you enjoyed this talk, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. You may learn more about topics in cognitive security by visiting us at cognitivesecurity.institute.